Well, good morning, everyone. It's August 12th, 2024, and the favorite time of our week because it's Mondays with Bev and Paul. And hi, everybody. My name's Paul.
Good morning. This is Bev.
Good morning, Bev.
Morning, Paul.
And good morning, all of you out there around the world and in the universe.
That's
We
right.
actually are projecting this out into the 10,000 universes and the 10,000 worlds. So if you're on another universe, send us an email.
Right.
Send
Send
your
us a
questions to
message.
justtouch.com and we'll answer that any way we can. Hey, we're going to, we have a great show. It started out with just a few words, and we've got lots of ideas to share here. We're going to talk about a holistic approach to wellness. And if you'll notice here, we've spelled it with WH. We always liked that word better than HOL because A, we never understood why they did HOL. So we looked it
Right.
up. And we found out holistic is derived from the Greek word holos, meaning whole. There you go. And is used to describe something that looks at the whole rather than its individual parts.
Woo.
So
That's
that's why,
it.
that's
That's
why we like
about
the WHO. So
Yep.
we share it both ways, and we're going to talk a little bit about how BioTouch is really a holistic approach to wellness. As AI says, go beyond symptom relief with a holistic approach to your well-being. We were playing with AI and we asked it, well, how do we market BioTouch? And
Yeah.
it came out with this idea. AI also said, unlike treatments that focus solely on symptom relief, BioTouch aims to stimulate the body's overall healing mechanisms. This holistic approach may lead to sustained wellness and help resolve underlying issues.
Oh, my. Well, that's what we always say. It has the power to uh to really get to the cause of things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is the basis of healing, getting to the cause of the crisis or the dis-ease or the condition, whatever you want to call it. And that's where BioTouch begins.
Yeah,
And
and yet the
yeah,
way we begin that, and this is really clear, and we need to understand it because we don't diagnose, we don't recommend, we don't analyze, we don't try to figure out what the cause is. There's more than enough information out there,
right.
more than enough in the holistic approach, other holistic approaches, or standard care. We address the symptom. We address the body and the
Yep.
symptom. And that's all you have to know with BioTouch. If you start there, then that idea of self awareness unfolds and the body will figure it out. Yeah?
Yeah, we've said that this is almost we have to come into a place where we are trusting that the body knows already. We've said this, it's an intelligent unit of many different parts, and it's striving to become whole and balanced and in perfect health. That is possible. Diagnosing or suggesting anything to anybody. There's a trusting that the body knows what it needs,
Yeah.
what it wants, and what it needs is what we give it in that moment. One of the things that it needs and knows how to use is BioTouch.
And it's through that this idea of self awareness, it gives people the inner, what is it? The inner power, the inner strength to do research, to listen, to stumble upon maybe something that's going to work for you that doesn't work for somebody else. I just took a class with Dr. Deal, and he said um, certain supplements or certain programs um, work, but they don't always work for all people. So,
Right.
everybody has to find, just because you're going to take melatonin for this doesn't mean melatonin for that particular problem works for everybody, though it can help with some people. So that's what we try to do when we work with BioTouch with people. Allow them to feel the power, the inner power, communicate with their body, their own self awareness, and figure out their own line of healthcare.
Right. This is part of In our vision statement, BioTouch promotes what? The encourages taking responsibility for your own health care, waking up and becoming, as you say, becoming the researcher, actually participating in your healing journey
Right.
instead of standing outside of your body, looking on and letting somebody else suggest, diagnose, whatever, their opinion. Let's do that work for ourselves. That's really the journey that BioTouch and that self-awareness helps us to begin.
You know
You
that
know, it just, yeah,
that
it's
reminds
empowering.
me of numerous examples we have of that. One of them, I remember, this woman was doing BioTouch with her husband, and all of a sudden she was noticing bananas were gone every week, and they used to stay until they rotted and stuff. And she realized her husband was eating these bananas all the time, and he usually couldn't stand
He
them.
can't stand.
And she started to notice, obviously his body was naturally, and he almost didn't even recognize he was doing that. And so his
Right.
body was needing whatever is in those bananas, potassium or whatever, and he was just automatically eating them. And on the other end of the stick, I'll never forget working with this one only whole foods, living foods,
Vegan,
was
everything.
very, very
Yeah.
sick and went out and ate a hamburger and never felt better. And since then, I've learned, a lot of times these, people on the vegetarian, it's a concept, but their body's screaming for some kind of meat protein in
Right.
order to keep the muscles going. And so, not all, diets work for all people. But if you
No.
listen and you trust, sometimes you just need that Oreo. I mean, it's
Well,
like,
right on. I get it.
you
Yeah, I
know,
think so too. And this, I've often thought that you were talking earlier about not everything works for, we all have the same equipment, but decisions and choices and everything, whatever, um, might be different for each of us. And what I've often thought about BioTouch is it's actually a custom made system. It addresses each one of us where we are. And I think the important thing that is why this integrity of this healing technique is so important is every single practitioner uh, has learned the same ways to touch in the same areas for specific conditions. Nothing ever changes. That basic foundation, that basic technique, those 17 sets of point, we are taught the same, every single one of us.
yeah,
We can get into those more opportunities that we know, but that foundational technique doesn't vary. If somebody has a headache, we're all going to do the same points on the neck,
right,
period.
period.
We might add other things, but we're going.
And that adding is because that particular body we're working on is sort of whatever it is, sending a
That's it.
message to the practitioner. And what we say to people is, let yourself go. You can't
Yeah.
hurt anybody. And so
No.
if it comes to you to do some other points, even though you're working on a headache, you might go down and all of a sudden do the poison set,
Right.
and their headache
Exactly.
goes away. So,
Yeah.
so
No.
we don't know what the underlying causes are, but if we start with the symptom and then listen, both as you said, as a practitioner and a recipient, then
Yeah.
the body it'll start vibing out what it needs, and we can
Talk
all,
about a relationship of healing, right? Oh
yeah,
my
no
gosh.
kidding. And
So
the other thing we don't like to stick with is these diagnoses all the time. And I'll
yeah.
use my sister-in-law as a perfect example of that. She had, these heart issues. Of course she thought it was, having a heart attack or had, an arrhythmia, and she did all the tests you could do for heart. And finally, at the end of all those tests, the diagnosis came back with some weird name, And what it was a pinching of the nerves between the shoulder blades.
Shoulder blades. Wow. That's the really good news.
Yeah. So, you know, so we would of course deal with the heart. You know, we would do all those points, but we also have a part of our program where we make sure you work those nerves that come
Yep.
off the back to the heart area, you know, and maybe there was a metabolic situation, maybe there was stress, maybe there so it's such an amazing
Oh
what
my
is it? The
gosh.
healing process is it's magical. That's the good word for it.
I'll never forget what you said years ago in a certification class that biotouch is an art form.
Yes. Yes.
And everybody was like, oh, we've never heard that before. But it really, what you were just saying just now, uh, I thought about that. I'm like, it is because what happens with art? We become creative. We
Yes.
become part and we participate with another human being in their journey without even, calling it anything. We're just present with them. And then the body becomes the artist.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah, I just kept thinking it truly is a dance, you know. I
it
mean,
is. It is.
I'll tell you folks, this stuff is amazing. You really need to try it, you know.
You really
You
do.
know, and not get locked into concepts. And then also what happens, you know, this is a very interesting thing that's happened before. There's what we call a crisis sometimes that happens. And we have a couple of examples of that. I remember working with a woman in Mancus, COPD, her lungs were all, you know, she could hardly breathe. And we would work with her, I don't know, it was once or twice a week. And all of a sudden she didn't come in one week. And it turned out she was in the hospital, you know. And of course, you know, I'm freaking
Yeah.
out like, oh my
Yeah,
God, what happened?
right.
What, you know, BioTouch doesn't work. It's a big, you know, it's all
Get out of
bullshit.
your
Yeah,
ego,
you
Mr.
know, I mean,
Paul.
and as soon as she got out, she came to the center and she said, Paul, I just need to let you know I couldn't wait to get back to BioTouch. I couldn't wait to get my healing with you. She says, you know, I know what happened was you worked on me all these weeks and it released all that phlegm, all that stuff in my lungs. And what happened was she didn't have the strength to spit it out or cough it up. And so she
Right.
had to go into emergency care and have a syringe to pull it out and a few days of rest. And the whole time she knew BioTouch is what helped her go through this next phase of healing. And I was so thrilled to hear that and so
Yeah.
thrilled to recognize how we don't create fear in people to use this Western standard medical care because the art of that, there is an art to Western care, was necessary for her to go to her next phase of
Yes.
healing.
But what a great self-awareness. And as she told you, BioTouch helped her to understand, golly, understanding and knowing, or at least having an essence, a sense of, isn't that what gives us hope? If we just continue to be victims, um, boy, I tell you what, it leads to so many, of course, the underlying stress and the depression, but once you really start participating, I think that's what's so important about this holistic system. When you get to participate in that process of undoing, and you were saying earlier today about people, we've been trained not to be patient enough with that process in our bodies.
Right.
Because what would happen if immediately, Paul, everything just went into place? He said we'd fry.
Right. It would be like an explosion from the heavens and
It
the
would.
gods come down with lightning and just
Kaboom.
boom, you know, the body just was perfect all of a sudden. It's like, uh-oh,
Uh-oh.
we couldn't.
No, we have to go through the process. I always say you can't go from point A to point D. You got to go through B and C.
Right,
It doesn't work that way.
right.
For true healing,
Yeah.
you got to go through the process.
And it's got to be your process. You know,
Yeah.
I'll never forget hearing, you know, we used to have the guru slap us on the forehead or spit in our
Yeah.
eyes, you know, the Shakti
Yeah.
pot, right? and
Right.
people felt enlightened, and the gates opened up of heaven. And I'll never forget learning. I can't remember what school it was, where if you do it that way, you're gonna have to do it again, because you gotta come to that so-called enlightenment, to that waking up on your own. You can't go a back door. The drugs
Yeah.
that we did, those were
Yeah.
backdoor ways to come to
Yeah.
self-awareness. The
Yeah.
goal is it's work. We're here to work. We're here to educate ourselves. That this is the learning planet, and so BioTouch helps us feel confident that we can do it,
Yeah.
and we can do
From
it with
step to step, huh?
yes, and do
Yeah.
it with another. This idea of self-healing, yeah, it's a weird concept. It's like, let's bring our brothers and our sisters and our families together for healing and help one another with something that's so simple as taking the index and middle finger of each hand and lightly touching on the skin. And then
And
things can
then
happen.
trusting that the body, wakes up.
Yeah. And we have one more little example that we had with a woman at Amity. Had this shoulder problem for a long time. And Amity's a drug rehab community. A lot of the women there were there to get ready to be reunited with their children after being incarcerated. This woman's in a group every day. They have little group meetings, and she still had this shoulder problem. And the more we worked on it, one day all of a sudden she starts just bawling, crying, crying, crying. And she was having a flashback memory of being raped and kicked in that shoulder.
Wow.
The pain went away. She was able to go to group and talk about it. She hadn't even remembered it. And that shoulder pain never came back.
Because why? She got to the cause.
Yes, she was able to wake up, feel safe. She was in a safe environment,
That's what
and
happened.
trusted the environment, trusted what her body was telling her, and the healing happened. It didn't take a lot of psychological analysis, and it was sort of hard for us too, because when somebody breaks down like that, you're like, oh, what do I do?
I
What
know.
do I,
We've
so,
all kind of like been there, I
yeah.
think. You just,
So learn BioTouch, let the story unfold. It's not about doing, it's just about applying a few sets of points and then watching the story unfold. We have numerous ways you can learn it. JustTouch.com is one way, easy. Go on, download even the first 10 pages and just learn the greeting. We also have trainings. Our next training here in Tucson, live in person with Eileen Webster. It's July 17th and 18th. It's 9 to 3. And if you're a massage therapist, doula, or nurse, you can get 10 CE credits. Also, the fourth Thursday of every month, we do a workshop. So you don't have to learn the whole technique. So this particular one, we're going to be working with carpal tunnel syndrome. And we're just going to share a few sets of points, but we have a really nice presentation about what carpal tunnel syndrome is, how do you get it, from Mara Concordia. She runs Peaceful Spirit Wellness Centers here in Tucson. It's a show that we're going to rerun. Bev and I will be live teaching the points. So those are all the ways you can learn. Besides, if you have a personal issue and you don't know what to do, send us an email. Office, it's right there on the screen, at justtouch.com, or call us 520-323-7951. Operators are standing online right now waiting for your call. And as you can tell, we have fun here at BioTouch. So
it brings such joy.
Yes, it does. So,
doesn't it?
Another Monday. Thanks, Bev, for hanging out.
Paul.
Thank you all for inviting us into your home, on your phone, or wherever you get these podcasts. Take care, everybody.
Have a wonderful day.
Days in and days out, space and time is all about feeling pressure with the pain, in sunshine or in the rain. Living is a place in mind, giving is being kind. When the pain is too much, what we need is BioTouch. when I'm touching you, you are touching me. It's a simple thing to do and a natural way to be.